Hello, good morning, and welcome to another week where we talk about business. It is Business 360, and my name is Blyden Okem. In Business 360 today, we'll look at some of the biggest stories in the world of business. We'll also look at economic statistics, the market itself, and what is happening regarding the energy market, the price of crude oil, amid the war between Israel and Hamas. But we begin the conversation looking at expected data this week. In the coming week, the focus in the U.S. will center on the eagerly awaited inflation rates data, with retail sales and speeches by Fed officials also taking the spotlight. Additionally, attention will be directed towards producer prices, industrial production, exports, import prices, as well as building permits and housing starts. The earnings season will continue, featuring reports from Home Depot, Cisco, TJX, Walmart, and Applied Materials. Internationally, in the UK, investors will closely monitor inflation rates, retail sales, and unemployment rates. Also, China will be in the limelight with updates on new yuan loans, industrial production, retail sales, and fixed asset investments. The week will also unveil the third quarter GDP growth rates for Japan, the Netherlands, Poland, Russia, and Malaysia. Finally, Germany will release the ZEW Economic Sentiment Index, India inflation rates, and Australia will provide updates on both Westpac consumer confidence and NAP business confidence, as well as economic data across Africa. Looking at intending features in the world of business. Indonesian President Joko Widodo is in the United States this week for a summit with President Joe Biden at the White House, and later to attend the 30th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation the APEC summit in San Francisco, amid the continued Israel-Gaza war. The visit has prompted questions about whether Widodo, popularly known as Jokowi, will call for a ceasefire in Gaza. The issue is particularly heated as the Indonesian hospital located in North Gaza has been encircled by Israeli forces. The hospital was built in 2011 with donations from Indonesian citizens and organizations. It was officially inaugurated in 2016 by the then Indonesian Vice President Yusuf Kala. In Africa, Tanzania is considering a reassessment of its fuel import system to tackle the issue of price fluctuations resulting in elevated pump prices. In October, fuel prices in Tanzania witnessed a fourth consecutive monthly increase, with diesel experiencing the most significant impact. The cap price for petrol in Dar es Salaam is set at 3,274 Tanzanian shilling or $1.3 per litre, a 3,320 Tanzanian shilling, a $1.32 equivalent in Tanga, and 3,347 Tanzanian shilling, an equivalent of $1.33 in Nwara. In Nigeria, African billionaire Aliko Dangote has announced that its refinery has obtained a license to process over 300,000 barrels of Nigerian crude daily and will commence gasoline production soon. Heralded as a game changer for Nigeria and sub-Saharan Africa, the refinery was supposed to commence production in August but missed the targets. At its full planned capacity of 650,000 barrels per day, the refinery would make Nigeria self-sufficient in fuel and leave plenty more for exports. Still in Nigeria, 8 firms have declared 918.1 billion naira as currency revaluation loss following 68.55% decline in the value of the naira against the dollar as of the end of September 2023. Following a Central Bank of Nigeria move in June to allow the market to determine the value of the local currency, the naira has fallen from 461 naira per dollar as of December 2022 to 777 per dollar in September 2023. According to analysis of a financial statement of these firms, it showed that the devaluation of the naira from 465 naira per dollar at the end of May 2023 to 776 naira per dollar gave rise to this recorded exchange loss. The firms include Dangote Sugar Refinery plc, Dangote Cement plc, Nestle Nigeria plc, Nigerian Breweries plc, Guinness Nigeria plc, MTN Nigeria Communications plc, Airtel Africa plc, MRS Oil Nigeria plc, and Saplat Energy plc. According to the World Bank, the naira is one of the worst performing currencies in Africa, losing nearly 40% of its value since June. This has negatively impacted firms like Dangote Sugar, which recorded a revaluation loss of 90.99 billion naira. Looking at KPMG reports. KPMG forecast that Nigeria's headline inflation will rise to 30% by December 2023, attributing the anticipated increase to recent reforms such as fuel subsidy removal and the unification of the foreign exchange market. The insights were shared in KPMG's macroeconomic review for the first half of 2023, along with projections for the second half of the year. As of September, Nigeria's current headline inflation rate was reported at 26.72%, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Still in Nigeria. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited on Sunday said it brokered a peace deal to settle the lingering rift between the management of Total Energies and the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association and Nigeria Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, PENGASN. It stated that following the peace deal, the union agreed to suspend the ongoing industrial action against Total Energies, adding that this led to an immediate restoration of 275,000 barrels of crude oil per day. Total Energies is the operator of NMPC and Total Joint Venture. The organized label had accused FedEx Nigeria Limited, an oil servicing firm, of sacking 3 members of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, an affiliate of TUC, without due process, while also accusing Total Energies of refusing to increase workers' salaries to meet up with the prevailing economic situation in the country. We'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll be looking at economic statistics all around the world, the effects of population and the population growth, and also look at the markets. Don't go anywhere.
Election meddling.
Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
The mishandling of classified documents.
It's an unprecedented day in American history.
And the falsifying of business records.
Alvin Bragg is investigating former President Trump regarding a hush money payment.
Just some of the 91 criminal charges facing Donald Trump.
I am a victim of one of the great political smear campaigns in the history of our country.
But how much jeopardy is he really in? Across 4 criminal cases, Trump faces 44 federal and 47 state charges, all of them felonies. First up, Trump will face independent special prosecutor Jack Smith's indictment.
The attack on our nation's capital on January 6, 2021, was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy.
Court will consider 4 charges, including conspiracy to defraud the United States. The indictment alleges Trump set out to sabotage the constitutional process by manipulating the election in several states.
You don't concede when there's theft involved.
And exploiting violence at the Capitol to delay certification of the vote. That same month, Manhattan's top prosecutor, Alvin Bragg, begins a separate trial. Trump is charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records.
Donald Trump has become the first former United States president to face criminal charges
in order to cover up an alleged $130,000 hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels. Next up, Mr. Smith will be back to bring a separate case, alleging Trump kept secret documents long after he left the White House.
Welcome back. It is Business 360, and my name is Blyden Ukem. Now to global economic statistics around the world. The world's population is estimated by the United Nations Population Prospects database to have reached 8 billion people and to be on target for 9 billion in 15 years and 10 billion in 50-year time. These numbers have been presented as factual, as it experiences an unprecedented surge in the number of older people according to the latest UN data. In reality, estimated is a crucial word. These numbers can only be rough estimates when a significant proportion of countries have out-of-date census records and many others fail to register more than a fraction of beds. For example, in populous Bangladesh, 44% of beds go unrecorded. In Pakistan, 58%, and in Nigeria, 58%. Even in India, over 11% of beds go unrecorded. Calculating world population accurately on the basis of such numbers can only be a fraught with difficulty. And in 1960, when statistical records were far less reliable, according to Morton Joven Books' poor numbers published relatively recently in 2013, this seems probably close to pure guesswork. But let's look at the chart indicating world's population growth from 1960 to date. The chart. Well, according to the chart, it's been that of growth in world population from 1950 moving a little bit above 2 billion, 2.5 billion range. By 1962, it had gone to 3 billion. In 1974, about 4 billion. 1986, moving to 5.5 billion, and 1990 it has reached 6 billion, and it's been in that trajectory, and currently 8 billion people in the world. How this gets to affect the market and different directions of global economy. With the explosion in population amid the accuracy of this population explosion, time will tell. And now to credit rating agency Moody's. Credit rating agency Moody's has lowered its outlook on the United States credit rating to negative from stable, while affirming the rating at AAA, the highest investment grade notch. This change is attributed to a significant increase in debt servicing expenses and the presence of estranged political polarization in the United States. Now to Australia. Inflation in Australia was still too high as services prices remain elevated. Acting Assistant Governor of the Reserve Bank, Marion Kohler, said in a speech. She added that the next stage is bringing inflation back to targets and was likely to be more drawn out than the first. The comments came after the Reserve Bank of Australia last week lifted its cash rate to a 12-year high of 4.35% and signaled that further policy tightening may still be needed as inflation is likely to hit the top of the central bank's 2 to 3% target only by the end of 2025. The official mentioned that a recent increase in fuel prices is also a timely reminder that the upside surprises from supply shocks could affect headline inflation. Regarding the labor market, she noted that the board expects a further gradual easing, forecasting the jobless rate to increase around 4.5% in 2025 from the current 3.6%. A bit of an outlook in Africa. Egypt. The annual urban inflation rate in Egypt slowed to 35.8% in October 2023 from a record high of 38% in September, remaining significantly above the upper limit of the central bank's target range of 5 to 9% compared to market forecast of 37.1%. The reading came amid a slowdown in food inflation in September due to falls in prices of grains, bread, fruit and vegetables, while the prices of other goods remained stable. On a monthly basis, consumer prices were up by 1%, the least in 14 months, slowing from a 2% rise in September. Additionally, Egypt's annual core inflation rate, which excludes volatile items such as food, eased to a 9-month low of 38.1% in October, down from 39.7% in September, but above market forecast of 37.2%. Inflation indicating the cost of commodities and standard of living in the country. Let's move to the charts indicating Egypt's inflation rate. The charts this morning. According to the charts this morning, inflation in Egypt, which represents increased cost of commodities and the standard of living in the country, went to 25.8 by January 2023 and went further upward to 32.7 by March before dropping slightly to 30.6 by April. By July, it had gone to 36.5% and had gone through higher momentum before dropping slightly to where it is now, 35.8%, indicating a slight decline in the cost of commodities, but still relatively high in Egypt. It would be a good time to move to the markets, looking at commodity market and the price of oil in the market. Oil slips on demand worries. WTI crude futures fell below $77 per barrel today, giving back some gains from a previous session amid concerns of a slowing demand in the US and China, two of the world's largest oil consumers. The Energy Information Administration said last week that US oil consumption will decline by 300,000 barrels per day this year, while weak economic data in China raised fears of softer energy demand. Additionally, Chinese refiners asked for less supply from Saudi Arabia for December. Receding worries that the Israel-Hamas conflict would disrupt oil supplies from the Middle East also weighed on crude prices. Meanwhile, oil prices jumped nearly 2% on Friday as Iraq voiced support for OPEC Plus oil cuts. The group of major producers is scheduled to meet on November 26 to decide a production policy. Amid all these concerns, let's move to the market itself and find out what the prices are. The energy market first, and afterwards the metals and agricultural commodities, the energy market. Crude oil price, which is the West Texas Intermediate Crude, WTI, states the price level at $77 per barrel, downward slightly by 0.146 points, a negative 0.19% decline on a weekly basis. It's been a decline of 4.7%. Brent, which is Nigeria's price benchmark, current price level is $81 per barrel, gaining slightly 0.007 points, a 0.01% appreciation. On a weekly front, it's a negative 4.39%. And natural gas also upward, gaining 5.1% this morning, and gasoline slightly upward, but no significant difference in the market. And heating oil, similar story, but on a weekly basis, it's been a huge decline for the energy commodities. The metals. The price of gold in the metal market would be very important. Let's look at the metals. Gold price $1,938 per ounce, upward 1.35 points, a 0.07% appreciation. On a weekly basis, it's been a decline for gold, a negative 2%. A silver price dropping slightly this morning, a negative 0.7%. $22 per ounce is the price of silver. A copper price gaining 0.0254 points, a 0.71% appreciation. And steel prices upward by 11 points, a 0.28%. Agricultural commodities. Looking at agricultural commodities and the price of soybeans, the price of soybeans stands at $1,336 per bushel, upward by 3.25 points amid all the concerns in the world this morning. A wheat price dropping 3.89 points, a negative 0.68%. $571 per bushel is the price of wheat. Lumber slightly downward to negative 2.19%, and palm oil's price gaining 59 points this morning. The current price for palm oil in the international market is 3,802 Malaysian ringgit per ton. And now to the foreign exchange market. The Japanese yen depreciated towards 152 per dollar, hitting a fresh one-year low as investors brace for U.S. inflation data and further commentary from Federal Reserve officials this week. Last week, hawkish messaging from U.S. policymakers weighed on markets, with the Fed Chair Jerome Powell saying the central bank is not confident that it has done enough to bring down inflation. This contrasted sharply with the Bank of Japan, which pledged to patiently maintain accommodative monetary settings. Meanwhile, a Bank of Japan Governor Kazu Ueda said the central bank should tread carefully as uncertainties abound. He also acknowledged that widening policy divergence led to the currency's weakness, but made no direct pronunciation and pronouncements in support of the yen. Amid the concerns for the yen, let's move to the market and see what the price is for the majors, beginning with the euro against the US dollar and afterwards Naira's perspective in the market. The Euro USD market stands at 1.06 point mark, still same with last week. No significant difference in the market. The pound against the US dollar still at 1.22 point mark. Let's look at Naira's perspective in the market. The US dollar against Nigeria's currency Naira, 802 Naira equals $1. The euro against the Naira at the international market, 855 Naira equals €1. A downward direction for the euro at the closure of Friday's market at a negative 4.1448 points. For the pound against the Naira, 980 Naira equals £1, a negative 5.874 points decline for the pound. Good time to look at the parallel market. What the price change is in the parallel market this morning. A buying rate for dollar to Naira is 1,130 Naira equaling $1, and selling rates 1,101 Naira. A pound to Naira buying rate 1,305 Naira to the pound and 1,347 Naira to the pound at selling rates. The euro to Naira, 1,176 Naira equals €1 and 1,143 Naira to the euro at the selling rates. Quickly, let's move to the equity market and see what the standings are in the equity market, and looking at the Nigerian stock market, where the direction of the stock market is in the Nigerian stock market. While the US stocks have given different directions and it fell slightly today after Moody's lowered its US credit rating, it's been the conversation from stable to negative, citing increasing fiscal deficits and political standoff in Washington. Moody's said that without effective fiscal policy measures to reduce government spending or increase revenues in a high interest rate environment, it expects that the US fiscal deficit will remain very large, significantly weakening debt affordability. Well, last week the Dow rose 0.65% and the S&P 500 gained 1.31%, and the Nasdaq Composite jumped 2.37%. Well, quickly let's look at the Nigerian stock market, the sectoral trend in the last 7 days in the Nigerian stock market. Let's see the sectoral trend in the last 7 days. Which sector performed better in the stock market? Quite concerning, the real estate lost negative 3.58%. While the biggest gains last week was the healthcare sector gaining 6.68%, the energy sector 4.38%, and material sector 2.39%. While the top gainers and the bottom losers for the last 7 days would make a lot of sense. Let's look at the top gainers in the last 7 days. Well, First Bank Holdings led the most with a 20 Naira per share, are gaining 10.5% in the last 7 days, and the bottom losers in the last 7 days. Who lost the most in the last 7 days? Zenith Bank lost the most in the last 7 days. Here we draw the curtain on today's edition of Business 360. Thank you for being a part of it. My name is Blyden Kem. It's another week of business.